Presenting petitions, the Honourable Member for Courtenay, Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, it's an honour to rise today to present e-petition 6589. This petition was initiated by Lesley Fox from Port Alberni, British Columbia, and was signed by 10,800 Canadians who are deeply concerned about the risks and harms of fur farming. Petitioners note that fur-farmed animals can carry high-risk zoonotic diseases, including coronaviruses and influenza, and that intense breeding and captivity increase the risk of transmission between humans and animals. They highlight that British Columbia has already banned mink farming due to public health risks, and infectious disease specialists in Canada have called on the federal government to end fur farming altogether. Petitioners further raise concerns about the inhumane confinement and suffering of animals such as mink, foxes, chinchillas, lynx, bobcats, and wolves. And they point out that over 20 countries have already banned fur farming, and that public opinion in Canada overwhelmingly supports a nationwide prohibition. They therefore call upon the Government of Canada to finally prohibit the practice of fur farming for all species of animals. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Good morning. It's an honor to be here, a privilege to be here on the unceded lands of the Anishinaabe and the Algonquin people to talk about a very important issue this morning around animal welfare. And I just want to thank everybody who's watching and that's here today to discuss the important issue of ending fur farming in Canada. Finally, I'm pleased to be joined today by Lesley Fox, who's the Executive Director of the Fur Bearers. She's from Port Alberni, British Columbia. You'll also be hearing from her in just a moment, and also Camille Labchuk, who's a lawyer with Animal Justice. And I want to start by saying that it's an honor to rise today in the House of Commons to table a petition, an e-petition, on behalf of Canadians from across the country. Over 10,000 Canadians signed a petition showing that they're deeply concerned about the risks and harms of fur farming. And I want to thank Lesley for sponsoring that petition, for coming all the way from Vancouver Island to be with us here today while we table that petition. Fur-farmed animals can carry high-risk zoonotic diseases, including coronaviruses and influenza. Intensive breeding and captivity increase the risk of transmission between humans and animals. And in our home province of British Columbia, they've already banned mink farming due to public health risks, and infectious disease specialists in Canada have called on the federal government to end fur farming across Canada. And also, Canadians who signed the petition I presented earlier today further raised concerns about the inhumane confinement and suffering of animals such as mink, foxes, chinchillas, lynx, bobcats, and wolves. They point out that over 20 countries have already banned fur farming, and that public opinion in Canada overwhelmingly supports a nationwide prohibition. It's high time that Canada follow the example of these more than 20 countries that have already taken this incredible leadership, the steps to ban fur farming within their borders in the interest of stopping the spread of high-risk diseases and end the inhumane treatment of animals. I want to thank all of those that supported the petition and that have been advocating very much. And now I want to pass it on to Lesley, who has extensive experience on this subject, and we'll be happy to take any questions after that. Thank you. Lesley.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. Good afternoon, and I'm delighted to be here today alongside my friend and my own MP, Gord Johns, and we certainly thank him for his support for working with us to sponsor this petition. It's 6589 to end fur farming in Canada. This issue is really important to the Fur Bearers. The Fur Bearers is a wildlife protection organization, and we're one of Canada's oldest animal wildlife protection organizations. We were founded in 1953. The issue of fur farming is sort of an obscure one. It's not an industry that many Canadians are familiar with. A fur farm can be described as a large industrial operation. At that facility, there are rows and rows and rows of wire cages, small cages. And within those cages, wild animals, including minks, fox, chinchilla, bobcats, lynx, and even wolves are confined, raised, bred, and killed for their fur. This is for commercial purposes, for the fashion fur trade. So many of these pelts are exported overseas, and they are made into small trinkets, baubles, pom-poms, cell phone cases, handbags, and other unnecessary luxury items. It is an issue that Canadians are passionate about. We have done regular polling, and generally we're in the 80% mark of the majority of Canadians oppose the killing of animals for fashion fur purposes. So that's what this conversation is about. What makes this issue extremely compelling is it's connected to public health. Zoonotic disease should concern all of us, and it was something that was raised, of course, in the COVID era. And when we think about pandemic preparedness, eradicating fur farms needs to be part of that conversation. Quite simply, raising and killing wildlife is not farming. These operations are labeled under agriculture. They're eligible for public funding. They're propped up by public funding. But the reality is there's no future for this industry. The European Union is taking steps to eliminate it and moving away from fur farming. And it's time that Canada takes this issue seriously and has a transition plan to support families and farmers to put them into an industry that does have a future, that's lucrative, that supports our shared climate goals, and does have a way to support them. They need an exit strategy. So thank you very much to MP Gord Johns, and I'd like now to turn it over to lawyer Camille Labchuk from Animal Justice.
Thank you, Lesley. I'm pleased to be here. Animal Justice is a national animal law advocacy organization. We fight to ensure that the laws on the books protecting animals are robust. In much of Canada, they are not. We also give animals a voice in courtrooms across the country. And Animal Justice has worked along Lesley Fox at the Fur Bearers for over a decade to bring to light the cruelties existing on fur farms across the country. So fur farming is regulated in a very patchwork manner. Some provinces have had regulatory regimes overseeing fur farms. Other provinces haven't at all. And what this situation has allowed is for cruelty to flourish. So you heard a moment ago from Lesley about the conditions under which animals like minks and foxes are kept. And those conditions typically involve wire cages where the animals are deprived of most of the abilities to perform natural behaviors. When undercover footage or images from fur farms has emerged featuring Canadian fur farms from coast to coast, I think what Canadians have seen has been shocking. And in my view, some of those conditions have risen to the level of illegality. Depriving animals, wild animals in particular, like minks and foxes, of what comes naturally to them is a form of distress. We have also seen cruelty charges been laid against fur farms. In Ontario, we saw convictions. We saw conviction in Quebec as well for fur farming activity and the conditions under which those animals are kept. And we believe that is only the tip of the iceberg because most of the time nobody is there to watch. There are not always regular inspections of fur farming, and the conditions that we believe are cruel and unlawful have been allowed to fester and flourish. It's time for national leadership on this issue. The federal government has both a moral obligation and a responsibility to step in and prevent this cruelty from continuing, as well as addressing the very real zoonotic diseases and pandemic risks posed by this industry. Thank you.
Thank you. And just before we go to questions, it is a really, historic moment. We just lost an incredible champion for animal rights, Jane Goodall. And I know this is something that touches people not just across Canada, but around the world. And in the spirit of Jane, who stood up for animal rights and dedicated her whole life to it, this is an opportunity for Canada to show leadership in the spirit of Jane, ban fur farming, and certainly to honor her in her name and all of those that supported Jane. And God bless Jane, and obviously our hearts and thoughts to her family and everybody who Jane touched around the world and the incredible work that she did and demonstrated to us about standing up for the rights of animals, the most vulnerable. We'll take questions.
We don't have any questions at the moment. Nous n'avons pas de questions pour le moment. Is there something you would like to add to your statement?
Yeah, I'll turn it back to Lesley and have Lesley close. Thank you.
It's rare when you have an issue that touches all the bases, and fur farming really is one of those issues. Public health, of course, we know that mink are susceptible to viruses like COVID. In contact with workers, that virus can mutate. There's an environmental component to fur farms. The waste, the runoff makes its way into our local watersheds. There's a human rights aspect. Many of these jobs are seasonal, they're low paying, they're dangerous. Workers have contracted COVID on fur farms. And there just simply is no future for this industry. It's not controversial, it's just over. And society is moving at a very fast pace. We've seen this with rotary phones, 8-track cassettes. Sometimes industry moves and makes changes, and people need to adapt and move, and fur farming is one of those industries. And so, again, we're really thankful to support this petition here today. And we encourage everyone to learn more about this issue and to take action, and visit furfarming.ca. Camille?
Just would like to thank MP Johns for his leadership on this issue, as well as the fur bearers. We are very proud to support this petition, believe it's an essential step to moving Canada into a new era of compassion, and a new era where we take seriously the zoonotic disease risks posed by these operations.
Thank you, Messi.
This concludes the press conference. Merci, c'est ce qui conclut cette conférence de presse.